It is 2:03, so let's go ahead and get started with this edition of the Nautilus Notes. If you are joining us for the first time, the Nautilus Notes is something that we try to do quasi-regularly as a way to get together, talk about things that are going on in the Squid community that builders and users are working on, use cases, tips and tricks, stuff to watch out for. And then in this case, what we're going to be focusing on today is the new Squid release Spark Update 3 with a number of the features that are in there. So my name is Matt Brown. I am lead product manager here at Squid. I'm joined by my co-host and official timekeeper, Carl Sheffield, in the Squid hat there. And we'll come back to timekeeping in a second. We're also joined by Josh Cutler, our manager of product content, and John Nelson, product manager on the PM team with myself. And then we've also got Rob Hatch, Cody Taylor. Rob Hatch is also a PM. Cody is doing stuff with the product content team, works hard on that. Jay Tingle is our director of engineering. And then this edition will be joined by a customer user, by Eric Wahlberg at Marianne Liebert, and we are really excited to hear from him. I just had my first internet hiccup of the day, but thankfully I'm using my phone audio. So, but if it happens again, if I lose you guys, then I'm going to hand it over to Carl. Carl is our official timekeeper. Carl, who will be helping you keep time today?
All right. Well, I've got the time turkey that you might be familiar with, and then I've got a frog from France, and then got these guys. They're a little more analog, so I'll probably just lean on the time turkey. But if it gets really out of hand, we're going to use the screaming goat.
Got it. So on that, I hope everyone is staying sane and healthy in the midst of quarantine. We've got the chat open. The chat's kind of the Wild West. Q&A in the Zoom console is more for if you have a question about something that we're showing, please go ahead and ask that there and we'll try to get to it. But yeah, you can just post stuff to the chat as well. So I will open things up with a question. What are you doing to stay sane and healthy right now with quarantine? Please let us know there in the chat. And yes, virtual backgrounds are a big part of staying sane and healthy. And I am doing my best to channel the great Bob Ross here with mine. All right, so a lot of stuff going on in the Squid community right now. Carl, what are some of the things that are coming up? What are some of the ways that folks can get in touch with us?
Yeah, we're not letting the COVID stuff slow us down. We've got Intro to Squid. It's going to be led by Chris Stern. Chris Stern is one of our pre-sales solution engineers. He is a rock star.
Oh, man, he's a legend.
Yes. And then also we have a public Slack channel. Woohoo! And a tip of the Squid hat here to Carl Lee. He has been instrumental in helping us set that up. And we'll put the invite link in the chat. Some of you may already be in there now. So, and also just so you know, in this time of COVID world, we still need to hear from you. We want to hear from you, and we do have a Twitter handle and very active in Twitter. So come join us. And one last thing, don't forget about our Squid community, and go there for all kinds of good stuff.
Thanks, Carl. Yeah, lots going on. Really appreciate that. Seeing some good responses in there. Folks are taking walks, learning Dungeons and Dragons. I'm assuming that's what D&D stands for. And riding motorcycles and building fancy admin panels with neuromorphic design. I'll have to Google that later. Tai Chi, very good. Awesome. Yeah, hope everyone's staying well. A lot of challenges right now, and these chances to get together and connect are really, really important. All right, so let's go ahead and start to look at a couple of things here. So one of the big things for today is looking at Spark Update 3. You can get Spark Update 3 by going to the Squid releases page. Let me go ahead and share my screen, show you what we're looking at there. So this is just squid.com/releases. And you can see here, you can see the latest version that's on Squid for Salesforce. That's what you will get if you install Squid from the App Exchange, or if you install from here, you're going to get 12.2.19. That's the latest official GA release. Yes, I've got the Star Wars periodic table shirt here. In case you didn't notice, our tone here is very casual with the Squid hats and the time turkeys and the Star Wars shirts and the virtual backgrounds. Yeah, this is the barely official channel of stuff that's going on in Squid. Cool. Yeah, this is the Squid releases page. This is where you can go to see the latest GA version. But one big change that's just been made is you can go down to the release notes, which are down below, and you can see release notes for each version. That's always been there. But you can filter for release type to go to early access. And you can see Spark Update 3 here. So if you install from here, you won't get that. You can only install Spark Update 3 by going down and going to the early access section of the release notes. We recommend that you install into a sandbox or a dev org. What we're going to do is this is going to be an early access for a number of weeks so that you can go get into this latest version of Squid, test it, play around with it, see what it can do. And we're going to be constantly rolling out fixes as we go if issues come up and so on and so forth. So a lot of really cool stuff. That's what we're going to be focusing on today. We'll come back to this and talk about release notes in a second. We're going to, one thing that I want you to be looking for is we are going to be sending out invites. We'll post on the community as well. This is going to be the Squid customer-facing, user-facing product portal. So the community is a great place to go to post a question, or if you have an issue or you hit a bug or something, please go post there. That's community.squid.com. Great place to go. This is specifically for us to go and think about where we're going with the product. We're using a tool called Product Board, which is really, really useful. We've loved using it so far. And what it lets you do is, one aspect of it is you can create a portal where you can see ideas, features that have been released. And so we'll continue to flesh this out with everything that's in Spark Update 3. You can see what we're planning for the next release there. This is not extensive or comprehensive at all. We're still fleshing this out. And you can also see what's under consideration. And what's cool about this is that you can go here and click into one of these, and you can add what's called an insight and let us know how important it is to you. And so that's really important to us from a product management perspective to know what are you trying to do when you're requesting something. We want to know what the reason why is, and that'll help us know whether or not we actually have been successful in delivering that value to you. So we are going to be making that available hopefully here this week or next, so look for that. Last thing I want to call out, Squid has a free developer license you can install into a dev org and then fill out this form. We'll put the link in the chat there. But you can fill out a form, let us know the org ID, and we will unlock that. So it's not a 30-day trial. It's actually a free unlimited dev org license that you can use to kick the tires, to do POC work. We recognize right now folks might be in between jobs, building skills, building resume, maybe actually, pitching work, pitching proof of concept to potential clients. We want you to be able to do that. So please go install into a dev org and get that free unlimited license. That is for you, the builder. Okay, we're going to shift gears and we're going to now focus on Spark Update 3. We wanted to run through some of the features that are in there, the new enhancements. There's a lot in there. It's a minor release. It's still technically Squid 12. But it's a major minor, which is a musical term and also a tech term. Josh Cutler, Manager of Product Content, what's the best way for someone to see what is in Spark Update 3?
I would be delighted to show you. Again, my name is Josh Cutler. I'm the Product product content manager or product manager of product content, but that gets kind of redundant, which offends my writer sensibilities. So I want to introduce you to the release notes, and I want to acknowledge that 76% of the time when people come into our release notes, they're coming right out of Google. So we'll start there. So all I have to do is type in Squid Docs on Google. It will be the top non-paid return result, and click on that as well. And we have updated our doc site a little bit, and it's even easier to get to release notes now. It's up in the nav bar. And here you will find a handy map for all that's new and good within Spark Update 3. So as you look through this, you will find interesting things to see, just like you would on any map. But unlike a map, here, once you find something that you want to check out, for example, if you were wanting to explore the new features in the Design System Studio, you can now click on some of the links that are in these release note descriptions, and they'll go right to the section that describes this new feature. And something else that's new in our docs site is that now we have a badge that indicates when you are looking at something that is new with either a major or a minor update. So whether or not
Oh, that's great.
notes, or you're just in the docs for whatever reason, if there's something that's new with a major or minor release, there will be a badge in there that will indicate it so that you know that it's something that you maybe haven't seen before. So happy exploring, and I'm excited for you to hear more about what Matt has in store for diving into the actual features in Spark Update 3.
Awesome. That's so great. Thank you, Josh. I know that took a lot of work from the product content team, and we really appreciate y'all's passion for making sure that Squid's easy to learn, easy to understand. All right, we're gonna actually get into Spark Update 3 now. So Cody Taylor is gonna be our demo man for a good bit of this. And the first thing that you'll notice when you get into Spark Update 3, Cody, if you want to go ahead and pull it up and share your screen there.
Yes.
Yeah, the first thing you'll notice is the navigation is a little bit different for the Squid app. Rob Hatch's team was instrumental in implementing these changes and adding them. Rob, can you tell us a little bit about what's different and why?
Yeah, so thanks, Matt. I think we're all responding in some ways to the Lightning experience, and really trying to integrate Squid in all ISV products which are wrestling with this. How do you integrate Squid most effectively with the Lightning experience? So Cody's not showing it here, but obviously you think about, okay, you're in some other app and you go to the Lightning launcher and there's Squid, and what happens when you hit that? Previously, when you hit Squid in Lightning, you would go to the standard Salesforce homepage, which had nothing to do with Squid. And you would be confused for a second, but then you might finally find the Pages page, and so you'd go over to the Pages page and you click that, and there would be the Lightning header on top and the Squid header below that, and that would cause even further confusion and maybe even tears. So we wrestled with what's the best way to really help this out, and we actually took a page from Salesforce's book. If you go to the developer console, it opens up completely independently. It's its own thing. It doesn't have the Lightning navigation. If you go to the Lightning App Builder page to actually build pages in Lightning, you don't see the Lightning navigation there. They take the full real estate and give you the space in which to do that sort of work. So our engineering team wrestled with how to get this done. And so essentially what we're doing, we give you the Squid navigation, you click on the Squid navigation, and boom, we're going to open you up into a full page Squid app, which is
screen.
And so that was is we want to give you a 100% Squid experience and a consistent experience that's not confusing. And so that's
we're getting some good reactions from folks in the chat. So that's what we like to call user validation. Thanks,
I am
really
sharing
that.
I am sharing the Pages screen, right? Just to
that's
showcase that work.
Yeah. So yeah, go ahead, Rob.
You take it, Matt. I think you can go to the next.
Yeah, so when you click on Squid in your Salesforce app selection, it will take you to a new screen. Well, there's a lot of changes, but the first thing you'll see is an option to take a tour. And this was something that came out of a lot of grassroots efforts from our developers from within at Squid. Cody, can you tell us a little bit about the story of where this came from and why it's important?
Yeah, sure. This walkthrough story has been a really encouraging, positive experience, especially since Squid is all about what does the user need, and we're always talking about design first. Well, this kind of had its roots, and we had a hackathon, I believe, back in October, and some members of our team want to shout them out. When Amy and Joseph basically did a run-through within the Squid app composer of how to use Squid. And on the product content team, we're like, that is amazing. We are constantly work on the docs and other types of content, particularly within the product, labels and stuff like that. We're like, that is where we want to teach people how to use Squid. So that kind of like lit up our brains. We started hashing this idea out in more detail. Huge shout out to our designer, Carmen. She made this look amazing. And we've had a ton of help from the engineering team. Want to shout out Jason, Andrew, Jackson Stone, JD Bell, Jay Tingle, of course. So this has been a huge collaborative effort across many teams here at Squid. And yeah, and hopefully I'm sharing the pop-up that Bob and Matt just mentioned.
Yeah, show us.
Yeah.
How does it work?
So the first time you log into Squid with update 3, you'll see this pop up, and it's like, if you already know Squid, you can just say, no thanks, I already know Squid, click out of it. But say that you're a new builder, I want to know how this Squid thing works. So I'm going to take the tour, and it will load you into a new page within the app composer. And through the magic of television, I'm going to show you this, which says, getting started with Squid.
Fantastic.
So this
Welcome to Squid Early Access.
Yeah, it's going to walk you through some of the basic concepts, like what are the different parts of the app composer. Here are the elements pane, which is basically all the stuff you'll be dragging into a page to develop an app. The properties pane, well, you'll be adjusting those properties. And the canvas, where you'll be dragging things to essentially build out your UI using Squid's components. So I'm going to just run through real quick, adding a model. And something really cool that this does is it highlights the elements of the screen that we want you to interact with, so you can kind of get used to those click patterns that you'll be using the more that you use Squid. So I'm going to add this model, and we wanted to make sure that it can check your work. So it's kind of a little on rails, but once you get started, it guides you through. And we're going to make an account page. So I'm going to select the account object. And then it lets me pass on once I've selected the correct object. It needs me to select some fields. So I'm going to add account ID, the name, the date, the industry, and the owner ID. And then once I do that, I can proceed to the next step. It kind of guides you through building the page. So you add your table, all that good stuff. So then by the end of this tour, you'll have basically a basic, but a functional account list page. So yeah, it's been a really great experience doing that. And we're looking forward to making more of these tours in the future, but this has been a really great experience and a lot of great work across many teams.
1 minute left in the period.
Matt, I believe you may be muted.
Dang it. It has to happen once every Zoom meeting. Yeah, we're going to go over on this one, Carl. No, thank you, Cody. This is great. This is great if you want to get some of the users, other folks building pages at your organization, send them in. And Squid's a little bit of a paradigm shift if you're used to kind of the one page, one object way of doing things in Salesforce. That idea of being able to get any data, display it in components, add some logic. We're trying to make that as easy to understand as possible so you can get to that aha moment as quickly as you can. So a lot of cool stuff in there. Now, there's a couple of things I wanted to point out here. Can you go back into the composer here, Cody? There's a few new things to the composer. John Nelson is our PM that is focused heavily on the composer experience. What are some of the new big features in the composer, John?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are a few things that have been requested in the community for a while. Some things that anybody who is a longtime builder in Squid is probably familiar with what we use called page versions. So It used to be that when you would build in Squid, you would need to be very liberal about how often you would save the page you were on, make versions of the page so you could quickly roll back if you made a mistake. Well, now we've introduced something called undo and redo, really unique, and it's unique to Squid, obviously. No, not at all. This is one of those common sense pieces that we just really needed to put into the product. It was kind of a no-brainer. It had been asked for a bunch. Early feedback is that people are already using it a ton. And something to note here is we are also taking advantage of some keyboard shortcuts as well. So you can use Command or Control Z, Command or Control Y, Command or Control Z to undo, and Command or Control Y to redo. Really, really straightforward, but it's super useful as you're walking through a page to be able to make changes, kind of go in a direction that you might not think is safe, and then roll back if you step too far off the ledge. So it's really useful, and the early feedback has been great so far. Second thing we want to highlight is right below the models tab that Cody's looking at here is something called the index. So this is something that shows essentially a hierarchical view of everything that's visible on your page. So you can have a bunch of components, and anybody who's built with Squid for any amount of time knows that pages can get pretty complex. You can kind of layer in a lot of different functionality. Most of that it can be hidden from the user, but in terms of the page composer, it can be really complicated, and it can be hard to find the different areas of your page that you want to interact with, especially if you've been away from that page for a little while, or if somebody is handing you a page that you've never seen before. So what this does is essentially a list of everything that's visible. The search is going to be something you're going to find that you use a lot. So if you just type something in that matches either the ID of fields or the name or type of a component, you can essentially walk up and down the list of matching items. And as soon as you select one of the items from the list within the index, it will be selected in the composer as well, and vice versa. So current limitations for this is that we're not dragging and dropping quite yet. That's something that we are going to stretch for an upcoming release. But right now, just in terms of being able to find things, the index is going to make that a lot easier for you.
Awesome, man. Yeah, that is so exciting. It's very useful. We've heard great things already from some of the folks that have gotten in there and being able to navigate that. Very cool. All right, Cody, you want to get back into one of those admin pages, and there's a lot more to the Squid app that is new. And again, this is Rob's team that's been focusing a lot on this. Rob, what's new about the Squid app?
Yeah, so it's really, in some ways, it's not new. These are the same functions that you've had previously, but they're completely reimagined. So we've done a V2 conversion. So these are all V2 pages. That's kind of the first thing out of the gate. We wanted to eat our own dog food, so everything here is V2 pages. And then we're taking advantage of feedback we've gotten from all of you on the community for the last couple of years, and really just trying to apply consistent UX, well-designed pages, consistent patterns throughout the application. And we've made some down payments on larger projects here, but you can expect more to happen in the future. We're looking particularly at functions like the whole process of actually deploying. Once you've got a Squid page built, what do you do to give it to users? What does that process look like? There's some really interesting interactions with core Salesforce admin and with Squid admin that you have to jump back and forth that make that confusing. There's a lot of different permutations to those processes. How do we make that easy? So some of those broader and deeper explorations are things that we're looking at in the future. But this just really makes a down payment on all of that and makes it consistent and makes it.
Awesome, yeah, and it really is beautiful. It's a welcome change. Great work to you and your team there. Okay, one or two smaller things I wanted to share. Let me go ahead and share my screen here. So there are a number of, let me make sure I get the right screen. Cool, yep. There are a number of new enhancements to components and other smaller features, actions, things like that in Squid Spark Update 3. Definitely go look at the release notes for all of them. I wanted to highlight a few things. One of them is frozen columns in tables. And so here we're looking at a table that has a lot of columns in it, all right? And you can see here, I've got 2 columns that have been frozen, and the end user can determine how many of these they want to freeze. And I'm a songwriter, that rhymed. So we got frozen columns that the end user can decide. You can also choose to hide columns in a table by default. That was another thing that had been requested. So a couple of features, enhancements there for the table. And by the way, I'm in the accordion component here, which has more options now for the default section state in the accordion. So you can choose for all of the sections to be open, all of them to be closed, one of them to be open, or you can define logic. You can have open conditions for each individual section. So a lot of robust control there over how the accordion sections behave. We know that's something that's been requested on the community, and we're going to continue to make that better. So accordion sections, form labels can now be on the left. We know that was something that from the V1 component library that's been requested. You can have form labels on the left as well as on top. That's what we're showing here. Button groups can be displayed as a menu, as a drop-down. So before, we had attached and detached button groups, combos like this, and then now you can just decide to have a group of buttons displayed as a menu button. And then lastly, we've got a new action, the Logout Action, which does exactly what you would think it would do. It will log you out of Salesforce. And that's something that's been a challenge, I think, for folks in implementing communities. You have different, it works in different ways if you're in a back office application as opposed to a community. So there are a lot of other cool things in there. I want to call out a few other things. Personalization Persistence is another one that is out in Spark Update 3. And basically, previously, if a user saved a bunch of filters, tabs that they had selected, so on and so forth, then they would lose that whenever the page builder would save changes in the page. Now that's not going to happen. So changes that have been saved to a page will not blow away the end user's saved filters or remembered settings, so on and so forth. And then last, one thing that's been requested is the ability to access the Lightning Workspace API from JavaScript. So if you're heavily leveraging Lightning Workspace navigation, there are now hooks in there if you are able to extend Skuid with JavaScript to be able to hook into that Workspace API and do that well. So those are just some. There's many more, a lot of cool features in this release. Last thing I want to call out is something in the design system. It's the ability to clone variants and create child variants. But we got Jackson Alexander on the line from Chattanooga, Tennessee, I think. Jackson, are you here?
I'm not originally from Chattanooga, Tennessee, but I am right now.
Yeah, yeah. So real quick, for folks that may not know, this is the Squid Design System Studio. Context, why is it better to build with a design system in the first place?
Design system intended is just to bring consistency across all of the interfaces that you create, to be able to style it all consistently, add descriptions as needed for how each piece should be used. We really looked at this as kind of the logical upgrade from the theme editor. You can certainly still theme everything, but instead of going to custom code as soon as you get beyond a primary button and a secondary button, the ability to add variants for every component declaratively to build out your system for all the custom needs you have was part of what we wanted to accomplish with the design system studio. So
cool. So you create those.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So you create those variants which cascade down. So what do I get now with the ability to clone a variant or create a child variant?
Yeah. So from talking to the customers and from our internal users, like our SEs, creating a style variant. So say you wanted another kind of button. Yeah, you can hit the add up there in the top right corner to get a new variant. But then if you're wanting to style that, you have to go through every state, every property, and customize it. Well, if you've already done that work to create a variant it's much easier to just clone that one. Basically, a clone, it just gives you a new starting point. So if you've taken a table or a button or any component, you've already modified it, configured it, you can then clone that one as a starting point. So if you want a bunch of variants that have slight differences, but are in the same family, so like instead of just a primary button, you want a large primary button, you just clone the primary and then change just the properties you need to have a large version. So cloning is just a way to make a new variant or a new starting point for a variant. The difference between cloning and creating child variants was if you clone, it's great that you've got a new starting point. You've eliminated a lot of tedium of creating a new variant, but you've lost the kind of cascading nature and the nice way of being able to change one property and know that that change is going to propagate to a set of related things. So back to the example of, say, the primary button. If we were to create a child of that primary button, sure, or the utility button, that's fine. Because it's a child variant instead of a clone, it still inherits properties from its parent or base variant. So if you go and change like the color of that utility default, the child of that will inherit the change. Any child variant can get modifications that the parent doesn't have. So if you go into a child variant and you change a property, it will no longer inherit that property from the parent. So it's basically an override.
Awesome.
So for the properties you want to inherit, leave them. For the properties you no longer want to inherit, you can override them. This gives you a lot more flexibility in having the style variants you need for any situation without the tedium of reassigning every property or recreating variants wholesale.
So this is great for folks like Chris Stern, who again is going to be doing another Build an App workshop soon. He'll get a design, a style guide from a customer, and the Design System Studio is great because he can then go and implement that style guide into the app just using the DSS. And what this does is it makes it a lot faster now, and he doesn't have to create every variant from scratch. So that's the kind of thing we're trying to save time for creating new design systems and maintaining design systems if you have a change to your brand, colors, and stuff like that. So really excited about that. All right, I'm going to shift gears. We're already over time. Carl, let's hear from the time turkey just for ceremony's sake. I think you're on mute, but there you go. Okay, cool. All right, so we're going to shift gears in a second, but before we do, I wanted to send out a poll. We would like to know which Spark Update 3 feature you are most excited about. So go ahead and let us know there. And our next segment here, we wanted to take some time and hear from one of our users, Eric Wahlberg at Marianne Liebert Publishing. Eric, thank you so much for joining us. You there? Can you hear us?
Yeah, I'm here. I just have to have the host enable the video. Oh, there we go.
Cool. So Eric, tell
Hi,
us a little about yourself. Tell us a little about yourself and Marianne Liebert, what you do there, what you guys are up to.
Yeah, so my name is Eric Wahlberg. I work at Marianne Liebert. I'm our Salesforce manager, so I handle all of our Squid development and really anything Salesforce or Salesforce related. So what the company really focuses on is independent journal publishing. So we have a wide range of peer-reviewed research-based journals with titles ranging from 3D printing, big data, to anything like genetic engineering and biotechnology news. But definitely my favorite one, which is open access, which means anyone can go on and look at those articles, is our caffeine research journal, which is great to get new and updated research on.
Wow, yeah. Very cool. So how are you guys reacting to all the changes right now with COVID-19? And you're up there in New York. What's life like, and what are some of the things you guys are doing to deal with that?
Yeah, so we are located in New Rochelle, which if you've been following this was one of the major hotspots initially. So we've been working, remotely for about a month and a half, about 2 months now. We really pulled out, right at the onset of this. So, we've really just been working through this. I think there are a couple things that really help some of our employees and a lot of my friends, like really defining a space for where you work. So you kind of like reinforce that this is the mindset I need to be in for these 8 hours a day. Yeah. And, if you don't really get a lot of time outside, like I'm in a small New York City apartment, I barely get out. It's really important to really only use your bed when you're trying to actually sleep, because it really helps frame that mindset that this is time to sleep. So I normally sit in bed for hours on my laptop. But since I've made that change for the past 2 weeks, I'm falling asleep in like 10 minutes. So if you're noticing, your circadian rhythm off, definitely try to adopt something like that. It really helps.
That's really good. I definitely don't do that right now. I'll go ahead and try that tonight. Thanks. Well, let's talk a little bit about V2, because you've been working in V2 for a little while with the new component library, so on and so forth. You had a couple of use cases that I thought sounded pretty interesting. You talked about using the list and the message block. And this is even before Spark Update 3. So you want to show us and talk a little bit about what you're doing with those?
Yeah, sure. Let me go ahead and share my screen on that. Share this one. All right, can you guys see my screen?
Almost, yep.
Perfect. So I am on a pretty wide monitor, which is why everything is scaled like this. But one of the really interesting things for us was really figuring out the core difference between the queue component in version 1 and the list component in version 2. As a developer, to me, the real functionality of that is to provide data to a user and allow them to trigger any series of action sequences on click. So with the queue, you really had that template area to work with, and you were able to do a lot of custom things in there, which we did. But the hard part was that I was the only one who was able to manage them and adjust them as needed, and it was pretty difficult to set up like a type of queue that we really enjoyed looking at that our users did. Again, perfectly capable of, but there was a lot of custom development with that. So what I really love about the list is this is just a really user-friendly, straightforward way to display that information, but to also prompt them to click on items. So what we're looking at over here is just a sales dashboard of close one and pipeline, but you notice that it highlights when it's going over this. So just intuitively, a user is going to be prompted to click on this. And this is when we bring them the additional levels of detail. So whereas in the past, we really didn't leverage that type of feature in queues nearly enough as we should have, what I found when I started doing the version 2 development is I was incorporating these types of components in a lot more places. And this kind of keeps in the theme with really condensing how much you need to put on a screen with things like accordion components, because this sales dashboard we set up here, our sales manager one has a bit more into it, but you can really structure the information with these accordions in ways that you just normally wouldn't think of in version 1. But it's great because we can click on something like this, and then it just opens up a case detail page, and we can continue working from there. So instead of building that one page for a console view, you could kind of keep that theme in any page you want.
Okay. So what's this green block that you've got there in that modal?
Oh, so this is the message component. I am a huge fan of this because I have had very long and embarrassing stories about the message component version 1. So what we ended up doing, because we had multiple Squid developers coming in out of the company and helping us through a couple of these things, is we had an Excel document that literally defined everything, like sizing on components and all of these different items. But we tested, messages like, hey, this opportunity is flagged for deletion, or this case has been escalated, which were really just, formatted components. So we released everything. It was great. All our users loved it.
Variants, if you will. You can say.
Variants, if you will. But one of our users said, I kind of want to increase the size on the text element. So what that meant for us is we had to go through each component on each page to increase it from 18 font to 20 font. So, it worked. But what I'm finding with version 2 is a lot of these things are just built in. So this message center, if I needed to do a process like that, instead of having to go through my pages and make those manual adjustments, I really start at the highest level I can, and all of those changes just cascade down. So for me, just building something and being able to have that freedom of flexibility and adjustment is really big, because, you know, one user saying this text might be too small, now that's a serious, you know, use consideration to go through. So these message elements are great. We don't have to have an Excel document to say, you know, color this with this specific coloring or text. It's just making life so much easier.
All right, so yeah, let me tie it together, because you're putting together 3 different features here. One is the message block component, which is a V2 component that lets you surface different messages, whether, you know, it's an error or a validation thing or something that you define custom through the action framework. Then you can go define style variants for that within the Design System Studio. So we could already do that before, but every one of those variants had to be created from scratch. With Spark Update 3, what you now can do is have that hierarchy of styles. So what you needed to do there to be able to go in and change that text size and have that case cascade down through all the different variants and have those inherit it is now possible with Spark Update 3. Man, Chris Stern couldn't have done a better demo of that if we had told him to go create one.
Yeah, the tech stuff was from version 1. But yeah, I gotta say the DSS personally is huge. I actually built a DSS the month after version 2 released. And then now with all the child variant components, I've really incorporated that in. And I gotta say, if you haven't started version 2 development, I would recommend building a design system studio that you like, frame it off of a quick account detail page or something. But once you kind of get a look and feel like that you really want, build the style variants on there, you know, organize them, which is great. I've had my Squid developers in the system, and, you know, when you're trying to tell someone brand new to the job, you know, this is how you build it, it's really easier if everything's documented in descriptions, which we have, and the style variants are amazing. I gotta say, you know, if you don't want to border on just one component, it's just that component name, borderless. It's great. I cannot be more prolific about it.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, Eric. What's your favorite thing from this update?
Ooh, oh, that's hard.
Sorry,
my favorite.
We didn't talk about that earlier.
No, I mean, trust me, there are a lot of favorite things. It's just most favorite. I gotta say, for active development, undo and redo is really tremendously helpful. I did message, I think I sent that to everyone. I do recommend still, if you're making a major change or something in production, or if you're testing something, keep a page version just so you have something to revert from.
Yep.
But during active development, being able to flip between things, you know, you put a value model lookup in there and it didn't work, flip it back. It's so easy.
Well, you're in good company. Undo redo is far and away the most popular out of the features there from the poll. So we get it. We're all human. We need to have that escape hatch. Well, Eric, thank you so much for walking us through that. That was so thrilling to see. We really appreciate it. And yeah, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for undo redo.
We'll pass on. I know we got a couple engineers on the call, so I know that they're happy to see that. All right. Well, let me go ahead and let's see here. We got one more poll here. We would like to know. We've got some pretty cool stories already of folks that have rapidly built some Squid apps and pages to respond to COVID-19. Working with a lot of different sectors. So we'd love to know if you are doing that. And so go ahead and let us know in that poll there. We're sending out, we'd love to know what you are doing in light of the current situation there. Okay, so one of the things that we try to do every Nautilus Notes is get an update kind of around the horn from a couple of different places where things are happening. So Josh earlier showed us about the new release notes and the docs, which are updated. Cody on product content spends a lot of time working on Squid Labs. So Cody, what's Squid Labs, and what's some cool stuff that's on there right now?
Sure. So Squid Labs is basically where you can submit all of your cool, potentially on fire, dangerous experiments. But if it's useful or interesting, or you kind of want to put it out in the community and see if people can build on that, it's an open source GitHub repository where you can just submit that. And so since last public Nautilus Notes, we've had a couple of really cool things submitted. Let me share my screen here. So one of the first things that I really want to highlight, big shout out to Rob Hatch, is we have this lab report, as we like to call them, about contributing to GitHub using only GitHub. So Rob wrote this up for users who, a lot in working with GitHub and Git in general is based on the command line. It can be a little intimidating, and especially since Squid is so great at declarative, getting people in and doing stuff quickly. We wanted to give people the opportunity to submit things to Squid Labs who are maybe a little more comfortable with web UIs. So here's this whole tutorial about forking the repository, creating your branches, how to start making your files, your readmes, and submitting those things, adding images, and submitting your pull requests, and then kind of what you can expect when we give you feedback. To get into the Squid Labs master branch, at least one of our code owners must review it and be like, hey, this looks kosher. All right, let's merge it in. So this overview just really runs through everything you can expect from that process. And it looks a little lengthy because we exhaust pretty much anything that you could run into. And if you find something that you want to, like maybe a pro tip you want to put on there, feel free to make a pull request. Maybe
let me interject really quick, because if you're intimidated by this, then you're totally fine, because I'm intimidated by this. I don't come from a development background. There are a lot of really advanced Squid users that are able to go take advantage of this, but this is the deep end. And so if you're like me and you come from not a code background, that is okay. Please don't be intimidated. Just know that if you want to go deeper, you can. There's some cool stuff out there. But if you're like me and you want to go benefit from other people that are pushing the envelope, Squid Labs is also a good place to come and grab stuff that's cool and inject it into your pages. And that's actually not that hard to do. So there are a couple other things, Cody, you were mentioning to me that are pretty cool up there, that even if you don't necessarily know how to contribute, if you're a Squid builder, you can go grab it and put it into your Squid page. So what are some of those things? Yeah, absolutely. So a couple of V1 things that were added. I'm not sure who to completely give credit to on these things, but shout out to whoever made these pages. Is one really cool UI pattern you see a lot is Kanban boards, where you just drag things around. So we have a task planning action management Kanban board. So here's a task page testing task that I'm now just going to move to completed. So cool. Look at those little outlines. I love it. So, and a little bit more of an advanced example of this is this drag and drop opportunity planning wall. And I want to show this in conjunction with something else, which is the opportunity page that has model polling. Polling is something you see where basically you run out, your page runs out, sees if there's new data, and updates to reflect that data. So I have an opportunity list here. What I'm going to do is move this fix opportunity all the way to closed one. I'm going to save it and then go over to this page. There are new and updated opportunities. Like when I was reviewing the PR, I found that by accident. I was like, oh, that's so cool. It was so cool. Now, is that polling, that's just JavaScript that's running in the background? Yeah, I believe that the original incarnation of this had JavaScript. It's also possible to do, I believe, through action sequences if you prefer the declarative method. But yeah, check out that experiment to see how that's implemented there. One additional thing that I wanted to showcase that was V2 focused, that is totally declarative, is shout out to Rachel Wilder. Her progress bars, which is you eagle-eyed viewers may have noticed, that's what I was going through for the index demo. This is all declarative. There is no JavaScript on this page. Awesome. So that is great. It is so cool. Man, well, I want to call out a few things too, because we know that Kanban's are really useful. So that's something that we are looking at for V2. So we'll put that out as something we're considering in that upcoming user product portal that we're going to be sending out. So you can let us know how useful that would be for you. But then also we recognize that there are more needs for extensibility. So I've seen in the chat, there's a couple of folks that I know want to move to V2, but there are different obstacles. We're trying to remove as many of those obstacles as we can. One of those is migration capability. So we are working on that. I think on a past Nautilus Notes, someone saw the prototype migrate button. So we're looking at that. And then we know that there are needs for custom components and custom renderers. So we're looking at different approaches there and validating those with users. So sit tight. We're going to continue to validate that with you, our users, so you can let us know, yeah, we're on track. This is going to solve the needs, or no, that's not how we were thinking about it. So we really want to hear from you on that. Okay. Let's keep moving. So Jay Tingle's on the line. Oh, first off, Cody, thank you so much. That's so cool. Really great stuff there. And shout out to Rachel. Shout out to Rob. Shout out to who else did we mention that had contributed there?
So shout outs to Amy DeWall and Zach McElrath for some of those pages.
That's
too.
right. Awesome. Yeah, thank you. And again, if you're savvy and you're in that deep end and feel comfortable contributing, please go. That's open. You can go and contribute to Squid Labs. We want to hear from you there. Okay. Jay Tingle's on the line. Jay is our Director of Engineering. Jay, can you tell us what's going on with maintenance releases? And you might want to talk a little bit about how we're doing releases with early access too, and how that's going to work. What's going on?
Yeah. So we're let's see. Matt said we're in public early access now. We should have another patch of update 3 dropping this week in the next couple days. At this point, it's kind of like at the later maintenance release phases where there's not too much. We've already worked out a lot of the all of the critical and the high level, like, oh no, it's on sideways and on fire type bugs at this point. But we are still planning to patch bugs as they get reported. So please do check it out and let us know if you run into something. Matt talked a little bit about that earlier. We're also dropping what should hopefully be the last 12.2 Spark Update 2 patch this week. Of course, we'll do what we need to do, but look for those. And we will be, I think this is what you were alluding to, Matt. We will be pushing patches of early access out up into the GA. So once we get
this is only big red flashing lights, only
Yes.
for early access.
Yeah, once you're in early access, once you install a Spark Update 3 package, we're only pushing to those orgs. So we're keeping we're basically going to push the early access patches out up until GA, and then we'll stop. Just know that.
And that's just to help us keep that cycle moving. So again, if you have issues, report them, surface them. We want to fix them and get them out quickly. Maintenance releases typically go every 2 weeks, but for early access, we might be pushing stuff out even sooner than that.
That's correct.
Cool. Well, thank you to you and the engineering team. We've got some fantastic engineers that are really responsive and have been working hard to make this the best release yet. Really high quality. We did a ton of internal testing as well. And there's bugs and issues and improvements that folks will never see because our solutions engineers were getting in there early. But now that it's out there, we want to hear from you as users and builders to let us know what we can do to make it better. All right, we're doing pretty good on time. All right, I had one more thing I wanted to show, and this is to show a couple of things that have been in V2 for a little while that you may not have known about. And that's one of the things that we try to do in Nautilus Notes is, tips and tricks or hidden features. Squid's such a massive product. I've joked about this before, but every now and then I find features that have been in there since day one, and I never knew about it in my 7 years at Squid. So let's see here. Let me go ahead and pull this up. Just wanted to highlight a couple things that you may not have known about. First, you can do keyboard navigation with tables. So it's not tab. So tab, and we went this route to support accessibility, but you can use tab to tab through different elements in the page, and it will do that. You can see it's highlighted a field in the table when I hit tab, but when I hit tab again, it'll go to the next element outside of the table. In this case, it's the pagination controls at the bottom. But if we want to go into the table and tab through the table, you can do that with arrow keys. So now that I've tabbed into a field there, I can use arrow keys to navigate through the cells in the table. And then if you hit enter on a cell, it will focus and you can make changes there. And if you hit escape, it'll take you back out to the cell and you can navigate to the next one. So if you have ideas for how we could maybe do that better, let us know, but wanted to let you know that you can do that. That's kind of one thing that folks haven't known. I didn't know it was in there actually until just recently. Okay. Another thing, and also I found a good lorem ipsum. This is Office Ipsum with a lot of jargony things in there that was pretty good. There was a good post going around where someone was like, oh, I didn't know I was married to a let's circle back person. So my wife is finding out about all those things, about tabling things, you know, until we're going to circle back to it. Let's sync up. Anyways, so this uses the masthead component, which there's a property, you can have it be fixed when at top. So you can see I'm scrolling down, but once I get to a certain point, it now becomes fixed and becomes the header as I scroll. So that's pretty cool. That's a pretty common design pattern with the web. And then finally, we know there's a need to put HTML inside Squid pages. And you may not have known that you can put HTML inside a text component. You can't do HTML inside template fields yet. That's something that we're looking at. But you can put HTML inside a text component. So we can do that here. And there's Rick Astley for us in an iframe, which I think I've done before. It's an old joke. Anyways, so 3 things you may not have known about Squid v2 as is. All right. So we're about done. We are at time, but we did really good. Good work, everybody. To finish up, wanted to just do a quick round robin. Well, actually, before we do that, just a reminder, the customer-facing, the user portal is coming soon. So look for that. We are working on extensibility features like custom components, custom renderers, HTML and template fields. As well, we know those are some of the obstacles for you. And then finally, quick round robin around everyone on here. What's the best TV series or movie series to binge when you're quarantined or socially distanced? Right now, for me, we're watching Tales from the Loop on Amazon. We really like it a lot. It's good stuff. All right, what else you got?
Ozark.
Ooh, that's good. I have to point out Twin Peaks because of my virtual background. But also, I want to say Breaking Bad and game-wise, the Final Fantasy VII Remake. Just got mine in the mail yesterday.
Nice.
I think I just finished up The Witcher.
The Witcher?
Yeah, Witcher.
Witcher?
Witcher's good.
All
yeah,
right.
my roommate's playing it right now, so.
Eric says Witcher. All right, Jay, what you got? You're muted.
Muted.
Silent films.
Dang it. I was doing so well with that. I actually haven't been binging too much, but I've intended to go back and watch those first 3 seasons of Arrested Development to see if they should.
Oh, nice. Oh, yeah, classic.
That feels
classic.
like I could use a little bit of that kind of levity in my life right now.
1980s and 1990s Spanish soccer league games.
Excellent.
Yeah, that's it. I'm gonna go watch Georgia football in the 80s. That's what I'm gonna do. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Josh Cutler, what you got?
I've been hitting up those Akira Kurosawa movies. 7 Samurai.
Oh yeah.
Sanjuro,
Nice.
Yojimbo, Hidden Fortress. Good
Nice. Awesome.
Yep.
Very good. All right, John Nelson.
Oh man, so there's a couple. They're not new, so if you've already watched them, sorry. But Frontier is one I loved. I can't wait.
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't know if there's more coming out with it or not. I don't think there is, but if there is, it's great. Last Kingdom, I freaking love.
Oh yeah.
That one's
That's good.
That one I think is coming. There's more coming up, so if you can get caught up before the next series. There's another one that's kind of a sleeper, which is like I was gonna try to look up the title. It's like Great British, like Secrets of Great British Castles. I found it fascinating. I just bumped into it one day, but it's like
Nice.
stories of great British castles and all the history. So I was geeking out on those.
Yeah. After this, we're all going to be like experts in really weird niche fields.
Yeah,
It's going to be good. All right. I think Mel's the only one left. Mel, you got anything for us?
I've been binging Community. It's on
Nice.
Netflix.
That's a
Oh,
solid choice.
yes.
Solid
Oh,
choice.
excellent. Excellent work. Oh, good. Man, perfect. Well, on that note, we'll go ahead and finish up. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We are so appreciative. It's great to see all those familiar names pop up there in the participant list. We're going to do more of these. Everyone stay healthy, stay safe, reach out. Let's stay connected. Best of luck in this weird global moment. Keep doing good work. All right, take care.
See you guys.
See y'all.
Bye.